Hello everybody, my name is Cesar de Leon and this is 72 and Strong, an online community of teachers, parents, and leaders. Our focus is to provide clarity and answers to the questions that you may have. Today we welcome Michelle DeVall, a fellow band director as well as a visual and performing arts advocate, who currently works at Kealing Middle School in Austin, Texas. Mrs. DeVall has given numerous trainings and professional development sessions locally and at the state level. So enough of all those things. Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
Oh, hanging in there. This whole distance learning, it's just getting crazy. But anyhow, our viewers want to get to it, so let's get to it. As a current band director and fine arts specialist, how have you adapted to our current situation?
I tried to keep what we were doing in the classroom pretty similar in transitioning to teaching online. We had already been using the district's online learning management system, so in terms of like how we were doing assignments, that didn't really change. What we did change was the delivery of instruction. We, as a band staff, decided to take the asynchronous route. I know many teachers, even at my own school, were decided to teach synchronously. So I had to make some videos of like where I would play something and then the students could play it back for me. I tried to make a few videos through a program like Screencastify to clarify instructions that way. So I definitely made a lot of videos to replace the in-person instruction, but that was probably the biggest thing I had to do to adapt to the situation.
Oh, I'm on the same boat. Videos, talking to parents, sending packets, you name it. It's been crazy. Anyhow, we know that having a routine is paramount for the success of our students. How have you dealt with the lack of routines and structures?
Well, for me personally, I've had to put a lot of things into my phone to provide my own structure. But I would say on top of that, I actually think my school's administration did a really great job of providing some level of structure. Normally if we were meeting in person, we would be following an AB block schedule. So my school decided that for 4 days a week, we would still maintain that to some extent. Instead of having a normal 87-minute block period, my administration asked us to teach for 45 minutes, and then they built the schedule essentially where it's 45 minutes of class, 15-minute break, another class, and then there's built-in time for the kids to attend office hours. There's a built-in lunch. So there's still a schedule, but it was put in place just because we know that some students can benefit from that. But for me personally, I just made myself available for office hours during those times.
And that's perfect because many times the students who might see the schedule might not understand what's happening and where do I go next, and parents who are confused, which brings us to our next question. Tell us about Canvas. Have your students used it? If so, how? And did they have prior experience with it or other programs?
They have used it previously. There's a class that a lot of our sixth graders take on my school's campus where they're actually introduced on how to use it more. I'd say that over the past few years, I've noticed more and more students are coming to middle school already having used Campus in the elementary level, which has been great because it kind of breaks down the barriers of entry. So when students first get their first assignment in band, it's actually an assignment to teach them how to record themselves. So they already had experience with that prior to us transitioning to online learning. And I felt like that's been a huge benefit because they understand what may get you a better sound quality on an instrument versus using like a Chromebook to record, which can be a bit one way or another, depending on what kind of instrument is recording.
Mm-hmm. I've had the same problem, sending the Chromebook recordings, and all you hear is something like this.
Yeah, definitely. Or I had one student record his saxophone, and it just sounded like EDM music. It was just, it was very, very tough to listen to, but that's why we try to encourage them to record maybe on a different device, and then they can still upload it through a Chromebook, but try to record it elsewhere if they can.
Oh, I hear you. Lots of troubleshooting, lots of technical support. So now you have to wear a bunch of different hats besides, just being the teacher and giving instruction. Now you're also the the technical person and the problem shooting person. Oh my goodness. Well, and it brings us to this next question, which is also perfect. Have you experienced unexpected successes or unforeseen problems with distance learning?
I think an unexpected success, although maybe it shouldn't have been unexpected, is that my students have shown me how well they can function independently to an extent. Like, for example, if a student's instrument has gone into, if it's malfunctioned while being at home, there's no director there to help them out immediately. So I think that it's taught some of my students to be more, to advocate for themselves more. So like if they're, for example, like one of my students, their tuba valve was getting stuck, so they reached out to me on how to fix that. So I sent them a couple of YouTube videos, and then through that troubleshooting, we found out like that actually wasn't the problem. So I'm actually glad that it kind of showed students how important instrument care and repair can be, and I feel like it kind of showed them why it's so important to take good care and be responsible of certain things. I also think another unexpected success is that. I guess I'll toot my own horn in saying this, but I've actually been really pleasantly surprised by some of the music students have been able to learn on their own. We did a solo project where they got to choose a solo, and I didn't put any parameters other than to choose it out of a certain book. Mm-hmm. And a couple of the pieces were in time signatures or had rhythms that I had not taught them, or we hadn't gone over them in class per se. So a couple students actually chose those more advanced solos, and I've been really unexpectedly surprised that they actually played it pretty successfully. There are a couple tools they use to be able to do that, but I was really excited when I got some recordings like that.
That's perfect. Thinking for TBA or for our viewers, Texas Bandmasters Association, TMEA in 2020, I think that would be great. 2021, I think it'd be great, to present something like that about teaching students distance learning, how to troubleshoot their instrument, why don't we use cooking oil? I had a student use vegetable oil instead of olive oil.
Oh no!
It broke my heart. But anyhow, it's just something to think about.
Moving on here, what would you tell all of our district parents who are listening and watching? And how can we promote more support for the visual and performing arts?
Well, I guess the first thing I say is thank you for pushing through this. I know that, I don't have children of my own, but I feel like it could be a huge challenge to navigate this entire online system, because no longer do you have a person in a classroom to help your student. It's basically that has been placed on the parents or the families, and especially with parents who are having to work from home, parents who have lost their jobs, parents who are essential workers and are having to leave, and the students at home by themselves. There's so many challenges in a variety of situations. So I have to say thank you to the parents first for pushing through this. I'd say from an advocacy standpoint, especially for the fine arts, I hope that parents, if they did see their students struggling in some way, I don't want them to become a reason to not want to continue in the fine arts, because what we experienced here is unprecedented. We had 2 weeks to pivot, to transition into this online learning. And while I answered earlier, there were some things we were doing before, it's still very different. A lot of students struggle with independently learning certain things depending on how they're structured. And so I just hope that parents understand that when we come back in the fall, whatever shape or form that falls in, that not only will be a better experience, especially if it includes online learning again, but I think that now teachers, especially myself, are recognizing other ways we can incorporate a sense of community in the classroom. And that's one of the key things of a fine arts class, is that sense of community. And I feel lost in that on my own right now. So I hope that parents can understand that if your student feels alone, that we want to be able to incorporate that as much as possible. And now that we've had some experience for the past 8 or 9 weeks teaching online, that we have more ideas that we've shared with each other as teachers on how to better cultivate that in person and offline or online.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because many parents don't know that we had about 3 weeks. Some districts had about 3.5 weeks to totally change the way we teach students from in-person. Now we're having to send papers home. What is that going to look like? We have to teach them how to use Canvas, because many of our students across the district just didn't know how to use those systems. Mm-hmm. And it's very powerful how the whole teaching community, and I'm not just saying Austin ISD, I'm talking about a whole state, a whole country. Just in 3 weeks, we changed the whole system. It's just very powerful. It's just
incredible the amount of work that went into this. But it wasn't in the news, it wasn't on Twitter. It was just, oh, teachers are teaching again. But how did they do it? It's just incredible, mind-boggling. So what has kept you going, Michelle, during these turbulent times? Please feel free to share your secret with the audience, because we all want to know how an incredible teacher such as yourself, how do you make it work? What's your secret?
Well, I guess professionally, having some kind of schedule has certainly been a huge help. I'm actually very grateful that my school did give us a schedule, because I don't know if I would have been able to do that on my own. So that's been one way to help me personally, or should I say professionally. I guess from a personal standpoint, just leaving my house once a day has been great. I'm going on a walk around my neighborhood, which I hate to say I hadn't really done much before. So I've actually come to appreciate where I live even more, and kind of appreciate the community that I live in. It's given me a reason to I don't know, explore more things around where I live. And I've tried to make sure that when I'm not teaching, that I've found things other than just like watching Netflix to keep entertained. So like I've kind of gotten into you probably have heard of it before, but you've heard of TikTok?
Yes.
So I don't have an account necessarily for myself. There are some teachers who use that platform in that way, but I was bored one day and I downloaded it, and I was like, okay, I understand why my students really like this. And so I ended up making an account for my cat. So for the past, I guess, week and a half or so, I've been posting like a daily video just of my cat. It's just for me mostly, but it's been a source of entertainment to kind of like just, I don't know, think of other things other than school.
Yes, I mean, that's what teachers want to hear, because we have hundreds of thousands of teachers across the state, looking for sources of information such as this, podcast we get going on here. But they also want to see the reality of a teacher that, just like you're having TikToks with your cat. That's what people relate to. That's what they want to hear about. And I'm so glad you feel comfortable enough to share with us. That's just very powerful. Michelle, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. We truly appreciate you coming on and walking us through this new reality that is distance learning. To all of our viewers out there, please feel free to post any questions that you may have or would like for us to look into. And as always, remember to share, like, and follow our page. Talk soon.